Hi, my name is Genesis Macias, and today I will be talking about three different cases. These cases being Boyd versus United States, Weeks versus United States, and Mapp versus Ohio. And I will be stating the facts of the case, the constitutional issue, the court's ruling, and the court's decision, and I will be giving how I feel about the case. So the first case is going to be Boyd versus United States. And in this case, custom officials believed that Boyd was trying to not pay them for the cargo that he was importing. So Customs seized 35 cases of glass. And at the time, there was a statute that allowed the government to request the private papers of the goods to be handed over when asked. So so they used this statute to require Boyd to hand over his invoices, and Boyd complied. But later at trial, he objected and said that this statute violated the Fourth Amendment. The jury found for the government and demanded the glass to be forfeited. Boyd then later appealed. And the issue in this case is whether or not the production of private books and papers of an owner's goods in violation of the Fourth Amendment. And the court ruled 7-2 for Boyd. And the reason behind this is because the compulsory production of private books and papers of owner's goods is compelling him to be a witness against himself in the means of the Fifth Amendment, and is a search and seizure, an unreasonable search and seizure within the means of the Fourth Amendment. So they're saying that the requirement of handing over your private papers for something is an unreasonable search and seizure. And I don't really agree with that. I mean, but then again, maybe I'm just not like looking at it to its full, like maybe I'm not just getting the full grasp of it. Because like me, I go to Mexico all the time, and whenever we go, whenever we cross back, we have to give them our papers, obviously, and then we have to declare what we have. If we have medicine, if we have meat, if we have cheese, we have to hand it over so they can see it. And we've never thought twice about it because we know the rules. And if Customs believed that Boyd was trying to invade pain, then I feel that asking for the papers of his products isn't unreasonable. I feel like it was just. I mean, I don't see why it's unreasonable. Like I said, maybe I'm just not getting the whole gist of the situation. But I mean, if you're trying to import something through Customs, I think it's reasonable for your papers to be asked. So that's how I feel about the case. I don't know, maybe I have to look into it more, but at this time, I think that it's a reasonable search and a reasonable seizure, just asking for your papers. So the second case I'm going to be talking about is Weeks versus United States. And in this case, the police entered Fretmont Weeks's home and seized papers from his home that were later used to convict him of transporting lottery tickets through the mail. But this search and seizure was used without a search warrant. They had no warrant. They just went in and took his papers. And Weeks, he took action against the police, and he petitioned for his private possessions to be returned. And the issue in this case is, does the search and seizure of his private possessions violate the Fourth Amendment? And the ruling was unanimous. They ruled for Weeks, and they found that it was in fact in violation of his Fourth Amendment. Because since there was no search warrant, this means that the search was illegal. And since it was illegal, the papers should have been returned instead of being used in trial, and it did violate his Fourth Amendment. And me, I completely agree with that, because that's the whole reason for a search warrant. You can't go into someone's house and just look through all of their stuff without a search warrant and then taking something and using it in trial, because it's it was found through an illegal search. What is it? Fruits of the poisonous tree. I think that's the term that it is. The fruits of the poisonous tree is using evidence that was found illegally. And this was my first time. This was my first time hearing about this case. And because whenever I think of the Fourth Amendment, I always think of what's it called? Mapp versus Ohio. That's the case I always think of. And Mapp versus Ohio is actually the next case I'm going to be talking about. So like I said, the next case I'm talking about is Mapp versus Ohio. And Mapp versus Ohio and Weeks versus the United States are both pretty similar. Well, I think they're pretty similar because they both have to do with illegal searches. And in Mapp versus Ohio, they police officials, police officers, they illegally searched Dalry Mapp's house for a fugitive. They went in there looking for a fugitive. And when they were looking for said fugitive, they found certain items in the apartment. They found bedding slips, paraphernalia, a pistol, and a small amount of like pornographic material. And prior to finding this, Mapp was already in custody. They had arrested her for being belligerent, and she was ultimately convicted of possessing these materials. And she she was convicted for possessing the materials. And the issue of this case is, can evidence found during an illegal search, can evidence be used? Can that evidence that was found in an illegal search be used in a court criminal proceeding? And the court ruled the court said no, it couldn't, and they ruled 6-3 in favor of Mapp. And they said that that material found during an illegal search and seizure cannot be used in court for the same reason, that they ruled that in Weeks versus United States. They ruled that all evidence obtained by searches and seizures that violate the Fourth Amendment cannot be used because it was found illegally. And again, I completely agree with that, because that's the whole reason for a search warrant. And the thing that I want to know is, the thing that I'm kind of like, it doesn't really have to do with this. I mean, it kind of does have to do this. But if you have reason to believe that there's like a fugitive in someone's house, like someone is protecting someone that's wanted, even if you don't have a search warrant, can you go into their house and look for said fugitive? Because I've always wondered that, because I know to actually take material in the house, you need a search warrant for that. But if you think there's a fugitive in someone's house, you can actually go in the house and look for them. I mean, I never really understand. I don't want to say understood it. I've always wondered that, because I've never asked the question. So because that's what happened in this case, because they were because it says that during an illegal search for a fugitive. So I don't know, because I've heard many different things about that. I've heard that you can look into someone's house if you think they're holding someone that's wanted, and I've heard that you can't because you need like a warrant. So I don't know, but those were the three cases that we're going to talk about. I talked about Boyd versus United States, Weeks versus the United States, and Mapp versus Ohio. And out of these three cases, I think that Boyd was the one that was more interesting to me because I still have so many, because that's not so many, but that's the case that I don't agree with. And I feel like I'm probably going to have to look more into it to fully understand why it's an unreasonable search and seizure. And yeah.